Hi. Before going to video, please subscribe to my channel for more interesting stuff. And the question is,
when did a game of hide and seek go horribly wrong? When I was about 8 years old, my little brother, who was 6 at the time, and my little sister, who was 3 years old, were playing some type of easy hide and seek in my grandparents' backyard. Well, there are woods behind their house. Our sister, being a defiant toddler, ran into the woods, and my brother just saw her run in and ran in after her. They were in the woods for hours because she ran in so deep, and they both got turned around. Our brother found a hunting post, climbed up it into the tree, and found a way out. They then knocked on doors, covered in dirt and scratched up, until someone answered. A woman gave them a ride back because our brother was able to point out landmarks to get back to our grandmother's house. They got back while my mother was on the phone with the cops. They were discussing a helicopter to find them. We were this close to a search party. They walked a collective 2 to 3 miles. They could have gone miles deeper into rural woods if they didn't keep going one way and find the post. So yeah, watch your damn kids, lol. Telling them don't go into the woods does not guarantee they will listen. Edit. I misused Amber Alert, but we were very close to a search party. Also, the police were called and still showed up to give the kids a talking to. Nothing was learned, and we were repeatedly locked outside on nice days with woods behind our own house. From the great British actor David Niven's Wikipedia page, while on leave in 1940, Niven met Primula Primi Susan Rollo, February 18, 1918, London, May 21, 1946. Primi died at the age of 28, only 6 weeks after the family moved to the U.S. She fractured her skull in an accidental fall in the Beverly Hills, California home of Tyrone Power, while playing a game of hide and seek. She had walked through a door believing it to be a closet, but instead, it led to a stone staircase to the basement. I was a waiter, and some kids from a party I was serving played hide and seek, and about 5 minutes later they had to come back because the chef came to cook. Teppanyaki restaurant. There were 2 guardians looking after the children, and one of them realized that a child was missing and freaked out. It was like a mini manhunt in the restaurant. This was all done by the guardians since they didn't tell anyone. I just overheard them and decided to watch what they would do. After about 5 to 10 minutes of searching, the girl comes out crying they forgot about me. She was in the bathroom the whole time, and she was quiet when they called for her because she thought they were still playing. Before I was born, my brothers and sisters played a game at my aunt's house down by the river. My eldest brother decided to hang by his fingertips inside the water well. Meanwhile, and unknowing of that fact, my other brother thought about hiding up inside the little steeple cover of the well, and to get to it needed to slam shut the well cover. Lamau, slam. Blood-curdling scream. Splash. Cries for help. Between fits of unadulterated anger interspersed with disbelief and worry, my aunt, grandmother and mom managed to get him pulled up, which wasn't easy because with all of those smashed fingers of his he couldn't hold tight to a rope. We had just recently moved into our neighborhood, and my sister, 5 at the time, was playing hide and seek with the neighbor kid. Long story short, kid couldn't find her. All the adults started going around the neighborhood shouting for her. It was getting dark. After a while, my parents called the police. Someone eventually found her, and she said she did hear everyone looking for her, but she was playing hide and seek, so she wasn't coming out until someone found her. Parents called the police back and told them not to come. That's how we met most of our neighbors. Edit. Since lots of people are asking, she apparently wasn't even hiding well. She told me she was in front of the neighbor's garage, not even in or behind. She is much smarter these days, but still very stubborn. Oh, I have a good one. Didn't happen to me, but a friend of mine, but I was in that game of hide and seek. Here I go. When I was 8, I was at a birthday party of my neighbor's daughter. We had mutual friends, and one of them, let's call him Toby, wasn't really the brightest. We all weren't, but he took the cake, like eating a dead wasp once and then wondering why his mouth was swollen. Anyway, the daughter then all challenged us to a game of hide and seek. For context, they lived on a farm which wasn't the smallest, so there was plenty of space to hide, but to not draw this game too lengthy, we all agreed to only hide in the barn and on the main plot, and not the meadow behind it. It only took the daughter about 15 minutes to find me and the other kids invited to the party, except for said Mr. Darkhead Toby. After about half an hour of searching for him, we started to get concerned. By this time, it was about 5:30 p.m. and we were all getting ready to go home, but Toby was nowhere to be found. Our parents agreed to let us stay until 7 p.m., hoping that he was found till then. After Toby wasn't found, Toby's parents called the cops and a search squad was sent out. Still no sign of him, the cops gave up. The next morning, I woke up to my parents telling me, in a tone of relief, that Toby was found. Apparently what happened was that Toby somewhat got lost on said meadow and was only found 8 hours later standing on the side of a road that was 4 miles away, with his shorts and t-shirt all ripped and damaged. He was only found after a relative spotted him with his headlights. Oh, did I mention that Toby was new to the area and didn't know where what was? We are still friends to this day, 18 years later, and whenever we are drunk or really bored, we bring this story up and just laugh our guts out about it. About him not being very bright. Yeah, he now has his master's degree in mechanical engineering. So glad this story ended well, or else my life would be different now. Not exactly horribly wrong if you ask me. But when I was younger, like about 3 or so, my great-grandmother was watching my younger brother, some cousins, and I. She decided hide and seek was a great idea since we all weren't able to open any doors without her help. Well, I found this perfect spot tucked between the wall and a couch with a small coffee table between the arm of the couch and that wall. So I got under the coffee table. Well, I got too comfy and I fell asleep. Back then I was a hard sleeper. My great-grandma gets so worried that I somehow got out of the house when I wouldn't respond to her calling out for me. She called the cops. The fire department shows up first and start asking her questions about what happened and all the basics. They decided to do a quick sweep of the house and make sure. Well, one of the firemen seen a little shadow move under the coffee table, me, and asked if my grams had a dog. She didn't. So the search was over, and my grams never wanted to play hide and seek again with me. And that, kids, is how I earned the nickname Heidi. TL, doctor at the bottom. I was about 7 years old, and we were playing in the dark at Grandma's house. I don't remember the exact reason, but I popped into the game a little late, and was waiting on my brother or cousin to come rushing around the house, and I was set to beat them back to base. As they came running around the corner, I turned and started to run. I didn't pay attention to where I was, and tripped on the wire supporting a newly planted tree. I fell to the ground, my wrist landing on a rock. I didn't know exactly what happened, but I do know it hurt badly. Run to mom and dad, bawling my eyes out. Dad took one look and knew what happened, so off to the hospital we went. Into the emergency room, and dad tells the admissions nurse, "We need to see a doctor, my son broke his arm." She got a little huffy, and says back something along the lines of, "What makes you so sure?" Then dad lifted the damp towel that was covering my arm, and it was immediately apparent. She just started repeating, "Oh my God." And dad had to calm her down so I wouldn't start freaking out again. I don't know how much more force it would have taken, but it was a radial fracture of the 2 bones in my forearm, nearly compounded. I still remember seeing a couple bumps on my arm, but not much else. TL, doctor, tripped on a tree, broke my arm, made the admitting nurse freak out. I was probably like 12 or 13. And because I was the youngest, my friends would always make me seek. I was counting while leaning on someone's fence. Keep in mind that this was happening in the countryside, in a small village where people know each other. So leaning on someone's fence and playing hide and seek is completely normal. While counting I could hear my friends yelling, "Flav run. Run. Behind you. Run. Flav run." Of course I ignored them. They used to trick me like this all the time. They would make me look just so I start counting again from 0. Meanwhile I was thinking, "Haha, you are not tricking me this time, losers." The next thing I know, a friend grabs my hand, pulls me like crazy and yells, "Run." When I looked behind me, there was a drunk man, pointing his gun at me. Apparently this girl at first ran away, but then she came back to pull me. I don't think the idiot was actually going to shoot me. I think he just wanted to scare all of us because we were allowed. But still, that girl was extremely courageous. One of my friends was playing hide and seek in a big group at his place when he was like 13 or 14. Their garage was an absolute mess. Like, completely packed with all sorts of random shit, enough so that you had to walk on top of / through things. So he decided that it'd be a fantastic place to hide, but just to add another layer of difficulty to it, he decided to hide by laying down on some of the beams above the track for the garage door. At some point he lost his balance and fell about 10 feet down onto a pile of bikes, trash bags full of clothes, car parts, etc. While he was falling he desperately tried to grab hold of the beam he was on and instead managed to barely reach the track for the garage door. His first finger on his left hand made contact right on the last knuckle before his fingertip in that portion of the garage door track had a V-shape to it and severed it cleanly. He landed on the pile of junk bleeding and screaming and he was rushed to the hospital. Some of his family searched for a while to find his fingertip hoping the doctors would be able to reattach it, and they found it still cradled in the V-shaped portion of the track. Unfortunately, They didn't know to put it on ice. We sometimes now refer to him as 9 3/4 since that's how many fingers he has. Well, the summer after senior year of high school we had a hangout at a friend's house as a celebration before we all went off to school, and the one girl I liked in high school showed up. It was then decided that we should play hide and seek, but normal hide and seek is too boring, so we would play hide and seek in the dark. Well, we're playing the game and I'm the seeker. You see, there was this one door that some people were hiding behind, including the girl, and I decided to try and push it open. It did not budge at all, so I decided to push a little harder, just with my arms, though I wasn't putting too much effort into the door because I did not know who or what was behind it. Later I found out the reason it didn't budge was because one of my buddies had propped a small trampoline against it. Well, after a few seconds it gives way rather easily. Game continues and ends, so that someone turns the lights on and lo and behold, I had broken the door by snapping it out of its frame. I was even able to turn it in such a way that it twisted on its diagonal axis and one tip went straight into the damn ceiling and crumpled a big pipe. That's why it didn't fall and make a noise, so no one noticed until the game was over. Afterwards I freak out a little because, you know, property damage, and also the one time I break something is the one time the girl I like decided to show up. Also immediately after the lights turn on, the dude that propped up the trampoline decided to dip before we called the host's parents down. Then we all try and fix the door while some of friends are making cringy comment to the girl, saying shit like lol at how strong meteor_smash is, those powerful arms. In the end, it all turned out fine and we still can laugh about it, so it's all fine. We used to play a similar game called Sardines, where only one person hides, everyone else seeks him/her, and when you find the person hiding, you hide with them. The last person to find you all loses. It's hilarious with a group of you trying to cram into some of the tiny hiding spots. My family used to rent a chateau in France every other year for Christmas, so you could get all 16 odd members of my family in one place. It was awesome and the place was huge, with a wine cellar and 3 staircases, so there was plenty of places to hide. It was so good we managed to get our grandparents to join in, and one game got pretty competitive that in a mad rush between my granddad and a few of my cousins, managed to fall down the stairs and break his leg. That promptly banned us from playing that for the rest of a holiday. Family reunion. When I was 5 years old, I was extremely petite for a 5-year-old, and I was playing with all of my cousins ages 7 to 12. I was hiding in the back bedroom when I heard one of my cousins running towards the room I was in. So naturally, I panicked and bumped into a huge grandfather clock. The room was carpeted, so it wasn't very stable. It started wobbling and fell on top of me, so I was pinned to the ground underneath this 300-pound clock and couldn't breathe, so I couldn't scream or talk. All my cousins came running because of the sound, but none of the adults heard it. So all the kids start freaking out, and eventually decided it'd be a good idea to go get some help. All the adults started yelling at their kids for being so loud and they were all getting in trouble. Until one finally got it out that I was stuck under the clock and couldn't breathe. The whole family flipped out and finally came back to get my unconscious self out from under the clock. When we were little kids, my siblings and I were playing hide and seek in our house. My sister, 6 at the time, decided to hide in an empty trunk in an upstairs closet. It was a good spot. A little too good. She ended up falling asleep in the trunk and no one could find her. We yelled her name and yelled that the game was over, but she was asleep, so no response. Ended up looking for a while. Parents catch on, they freak out, call the police. Police show up, they proceed to shut down the neighborhood and send out cops to search for her. The main theory at this point is that she got kidnapped while looking for a spot to hide outside. A couple hours of anxiety and panic go by and my sister wakes up from her nap, comes downstairs, and helps herself to some goldfish in the kitchen. A few minutes later my mom and the cops walk in. I wish I was there to see her reaction. A mixture of fury, embarrassment, joy, and relief, I'm sure. She was just a little too good at hide and seek for her own good. My house has a deck on the 2nd floor that you can use to get onto the roof, which is really steep. My friends knew about this, so one time I had my friends over. One friend, let's call him Jimmy. Jimmy decided it would be a good idea to climb onto the roof even though I told everyone the roof was off limits. I was chosen to seek first, and as I'm looking down from the deck trying to spot people, I hear a noise coming from the roof. I climbed up intending to yell at whoever was up there. So I got on the roof and it's Jimmy. I guess I spooked the shit out of him because he slipped and fell off of the fucking roof and broke his right arm and right leg. I swear the scream he let out could be heard for a few blocks. I ran back to where he fell to be greeted by my dad, who was shocked. I told him what happened and he called Jimmy's parents. They got there in 2 minutes, we lived close, and it's my fault he fell off the roof. So they take us to court. The judge hears my side and dismissed the case and they got fined for wasting his time. We are no longer friends. TL doctor tell kid not to climb on roof. Climbs on roof, falls off and breaks his arm and leg. His parents take us to court and lose.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.